I should have gotten your excellent responses, because you guys are absolutely right. This is what I like about this essay as a model for a college application essay, is that it reads like a story. It's nonfiction simply because it's presented as something that really happened, but it uses the same tropes of fiction. There's dialogue in there. There's the prisoner saying rum, 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 rum. There's let me just pull it up. We'll zip through some of the, oh, my share is not working. No, I won't. But yeah, so let me move my picture so I can see the text. Yeah, it was in Burma. I'm sorry, it was in Burma. A sodden morning of the rains, a sickly light like yellow tinfoil was slanting over the high walls in the jail yard. We were waiting outside the condemned cells, a row of sheds fronted with double bars like small animal cages. So you've got vivid description, and unfortunately we only have 650 words, so we don't get to indulge ourselves in this much kind of description, but it's very vivid. There are similes, metaphors, like yellow tinfoil, like small animal cages. The reader is placed in the opening lines in a particular place at a particular time, which is really what I want you guys to do in the opening of your essays, is to, at least in this first pass, there are different ways we can approach this essay, and we'll talk about those, maybe next week, but probably next fall. But yeah, we really like this. So all of this reads like story. We get down to here, we've got Francis, the head jailer, a fat Dravidian in a white drill suit and gold spectacles. Yes, yes, sir, he burbled. All is satisfactorily prepared. Well, a quick march then. The prisoners can't get their breakfast till this job's over, which is, of course, the irony that he's concerned about feeding some of the prisoners, but at the same time, he wants to quickly kill one of them. What do you suppose the big idea of this essay is? Why did Orwell write this essay? Tell the story is part of it. But if you had to sum up, because, oftentimes we consider essays, nonfiction essays, to have an explicit argument that they're making. So what's the argument that Orwell's making here?
I think he's saying like how easily you can move on from something so horrible, like how this horrible thing happened and then at the end they were all like partying and just having fun with the
Yeah,
dead
but are
guy.
they having fun? They're drinking whiskey at 8:30 in the morning. They're giggling, they're laughing uncontrollably at stupid things. So I think actually, Margaret, I think it's that they can't get over it, that they're pretty much appalled by what's happened. Well, we need some whiskey now. They just killed a man. But again, and you're right, but what's the big idea? What's the argument being made? If you had to say this is a blank essay, this is like an anti-colonialism essay or something, what is this essay? You kind of already know it, and I think Katie already said it. Yeah, go ahead.
I think it's kind of like an death penalty essay, and
That's
showing
not it's exactly what it is.
How deep it affects people, even though they say it really doesn't. It affects everyone who's involved.
Right. And this is you're exactly right. This is an anti-death penalty essay, and so he's made some strategic choices there. For example, what don't we learn about the prisoner?
What they did.
What he did. Yeah. And why do you suppose Orwell omits that information?
Because I don't think that has anything to do with his point. Because I think that his point is about the life of the prisoner, not about whatever they did to get where they are.
If you are arguing against death penalty, you have to argue against the death penalty, even in the most heinous cases, even in the most terrible crimes. Suppose there was a line in there where we learned that this little guy with the oversized mustache and the kind of springy walk who steps sideways to avoid puddles. Suppose we learned that he had actually, snatched up an axe and murdered a bunch of school children. Would that make us feel differently about the argument? Of course. So he omits certain things because he's trying, again, get us not through a direct, explicit argument, but rather through telling a story, he's trying to communicate the unspeakable wrongness of the death penalty. And so we go through here, and I just want to draw your attention to the idea that this reads very much like a story. Now, your stories, unfortunately, you guys are going to have to be super compressed, super compact. You're going to find that the tyranny of the word count. Oh, and by the way, if you guys can if you can put your word count on your essays, if you haven't already and you've sent it, that's fine. Don't worry about it. I'll figure it out. In fact, I'll actually, because I'm getting them electronically, I can probably do the word count myself. But we're going to try. If you go over a bit, if you're 750 words, 800 words, that's not a big deal. But we're going to try and limit ourselves to 650 words, which is, you're going to find is tough. It's a challenge. We got this dog. This dog comes goodness knows whence. Had appeared in the yard. It came bounding among us with a volley of barks and left, blah, 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 blah. Before anybody could stop it, it had made a dash for the prisoner and, jumping up, tried to lick his face. Everyone stood aghast, too taken aback even to grab at the dog. But he says that this, wild with glee at finding so many human beings together. What's the function of the dog in the story?
I think that the dog is trying to show that it's not going to discriminate against a prisoner versus like a regular person, and that they're all just alike. So it's going to love both of them, whether they did something bad or they didn't.
Right. Put simply, the dog is what Michel Foucault, the French critic, calls a subject function. It's placed in the story to serve the point of view of what Orwell wants us to think of. The dog, ironically, is the only character in the story or the essay who responds as Orwell thinks most humans should respond. Remember, the dog's all happy to see all these humans together. He thinks this is great. When the dog races behind, the gallows and sees the prisoner hanging there with his neck broken, the dog is freaked out and shrinks away behind these bushes. And that's the reaction that we're supposed to have. So if, as writers, you can come up with things in your essay that allow the reader to figure out the big idea of the story, that gets your reader much more involved. It still communicates what you want to communicate, which in the case of your application essay is going to be one kind of essential thing about Sophia or about Margaret. And these are going to be the same things. I mean, the big ideas for all of us are pretty much the same. We've persevered and overcome challenges. We're a loyal friend. We value community. Things like this. But by telling it in a unique story that only you can tell in your unique voice, it's going to be much more effective and make you guys stand out as applicants from among let's face it, a pretty wide, deep, and competitive pool. But anyway, so this is it. This is what Katie already pointed out. So it's story, and then we call steps slightly aside to avoid a puddle. It's curious, but till that moment, excuse me. I'd never realized what it means to destroy a healthy, conscious man. When I saw the prisoner step aside to avoid the puddle, I saw the mystery, the unspeakable wrongness of cutting a life short when it is full tide. And now suddenly the language here is not narrative. The language is expository. The language is directly addressing the big idea of the story, which we won't get in fiction. Fiction tries to be more subtle. Fiction tries to position the reader so they can figure out what the story means. Orwell does the same thing for most of the essay, but what makes it an essay, and this is what I hope you guys will do in your essay, is about 2/3 of the way through, he stops and says explicitly what the big idea is. In your case, it's going to be Margaret saying, it wasn't until then that I realized, blah, 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 something like that. And of course, you're going to use the first person pronoun just as Orwell does. This man was not dying. He was alive, just as we're alive. All the organs of his body, blah, 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 blah. His eyes saw the yellow gravel and the gray walls. His brain still remembered, foresaw, reasoned even about puddles. He and we were a party of men, which is almost the same phrase as the dog uses, seeing all these humans together. We're a party of men walking together, seeing, hearing, feeling, understanding the same world. And in 2 minutes, with a sudden snap, one of us would be gone, one mind less, one world less, which is, just terrific writing. And then he finishes out the story. They all go get drunk, mostly because they're freaked out by what they've just done. And their reaction is supposed to mirror the reader's reaction if Orwell is successful. And the reader's going to say, wow, maybe the death penalty is unconscionable. Maybe it's something we shouldn't allow for. So this is, so again, the purpose of this essay is not to figure out what Orwell's doing, but to figure out how he's doing it. And to use this essay as kind of a model. I know that there are tons of websites, online, there's books, 50 essays that'll get you into Harvard and stuff. I really, really, really encourage you guys not to read any of those. We will eventually, after you guys have taken a couple passes, written a couple drafts of a couple different ideas, then maybe we'll look at some essays written by kids here over the years at Tarrant High School that I think have been really successful. But until then, I like Orwell as a model because he's far enough removed from an application essay that we can look at the structure and say, oh, wow, this is something I could try. I can have mostly narrative. I can make sure I'm going to use all the resources of fiction, which is rich detail, similes, metaphors, other figurative language. I'm going to place my reader in a particular time, in a particular space, and I'm going to tell a very brief story. And that story is going to allow me midway through to step back, stop telling the story, and say directly what the big idea of the story is, and then in the last paragraph go back and finish out the story. And I think, and this is by no means the only shape for a college application essay, but it tends to be a pretty successful one, and it's going to be the one we're going to try first. So, and that's about it. So I appreciate the four of you guys logging on. Where are all your peers? They're worthless. They're probably all asleep. I was talking to Dylan Sheehan about, why he hasn't been attending class. And he said, I'm so tired. And I know he's been sick. And so I'm saying, and no, he admitted that he stays up late at night playing Xbox. So, so anyway, any questions, any further comments about this? What's that, Margaret?
I think all the guys are doing that right now.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Well, I guess to be fair, if you're stuck at home and you're sheltering in place and, you're socially isolated, I guess these, multiplayer video games is a way to, hang out on Fortnite and play games and chat, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I'll let you guys go. No sweat. Try and get me. So who have I gotten? Sophia, I got one from you, right? And I got one, I think, from Margaret. Will look. Katie, Sam, if you want to take.
Yeah, I'm going to do it. I'm working on it today.
Right. Take your time. I don't need these till Friday, Saturday, Sunday. What's going to happen next week is we're not going to have class at all. I'm going to use second period and tutorial to schedule one-on-one conferences with you guys after I've had a chance to read your essays, and we'll go through them. And that's pretty much it for these 2 weeks of junior sem. I'm not sure what we're going to do after. What was the date of the SAT? Was it 28th or something of April? Do you remember?
Yeah, for our students.
Yeah, we were going to take the SAT on the 28th, but that's been canceled, of course. So I've got to talk to Mr. Baffo and Ms. Henderson. Again, we don't want to, you guys have your regular classes. It's hard enough to do this remote learning. I'm not sure what we're going to do, for the last few weeks. I'm excited to see your essays. I think this is really productive. If you guys have any ideas about what you think would be a good use of junior sem time, including just saying, screw it, let me know. And I'll be talking with Mr. Baffo, Ms. Henderson, and Ms. Kimball, and we'll figure out what we're going to do going forward. So, all right. Okay, have a great day.
Thank you.
I don't know if it's going to be sunny or not. Thank you guys. Thank you guys for showing up, and tell others that this recording will be up if they want to look at it later today. Okay? Thanks.
All right. Bye.
So long. Have a great day.